I'm making a financial simulation about lifetime spending. In order to get the model correct, I want to simulate a person's expected earnings. Here is a rough draft of the playing board. In the upper right, I want to fill in the question mark for the salary versus age graph. I want to know, what should a person, young or old, expect their earnings to be over their lifetime? I think I have uncovered 7 key things that control this. First, a quick disclaimer that you should not take this as advice in any way. This is just for a game and does not represent expectations in the real world. Please read and agree to this disclaimer, which the AI wrote for me. The first thing we need to know about calculating earnings is the most important: whether the person we're talking about is alive or dead. To determine this, I went to the source of all knowledge, the government. The Social Security website provides the probability of major life events, like death. This applies for workers aged 20 years in the year 2023. Conveniently, it also includes the risk of the worker becoming disabled and affecting their employment and earnings. Let's scroll down to the data table. It starts with a hypothetical 1 million workers, and then each year figures out whether that person ceases to function correctly or ceases to function entirely. Young workers, particularly, overestimate their chances of continuing to function correctly in good health. For example, by age 45, 40,316 of the million workers are disabled, and by age 58, 107,185 of the million workers are disabled. About the same number who has ceased to function entirely. My simulation needs to take these facts into account. Back to the simulation. First, I used these tables to calculate the life expectancy shown in the orange bars. This hypothetical 25-year-old person has a peak in the orange curve of life expectancy around aged 85. I also calculate the last year of their work in the blue-colored bars. This person has a retirement goal between 62 and 67 years old. Certainly that's the most likely, but they also have some chance of becoming disabled even below age 30. That risk only increases above age 50. A person should take this into account in their planning. I can also increase the number of runs, which smooths out the curve but takes longer to calculate. Since this is a Monte Carlo simulation, it uses quite a bit of computer power. Each time I press it, the number of runs doubles. So now let's get back to that salary graph with the question mark. How do we estimate the salary over someone's career? The taxfoundation.org website discusses this question and provides some data from tax return filings for people in the U.S. As you might expect, income rises and then peaks around age 45 or 50. But this analysis has 2 problems. First, the AGI combines the income from the salary and from investments. So older workers who have more investments are going to have higher income from those investments. The second problem is that taking the average for a given age group does not tell the whole picture if the people who are working at one age are different than the people working at another age. The authors at Don't Quit Your Day Job address this question specifically. They found data that followed the same workers over almost 50 years. They did not just look at the average income, but instead looked at the median and also at the 90th percentile workers. For both sets, the income nearly doubled from age 25 to age 40. But then above age 40, the income flattened out. Let's do the math on this. For something to double over 20 years, we take 2 to the power of 1 over 20. Doing this calculation, we then get an annual multiplier of 1.035, which means an annual increase of about 3.5%. So what are the factors which control how your salary changes over time? This study from the University of Auckland Business School analyzes the work of Elliott Jacques. Jacques invented a philosophy of management called the requisite organization. The requisite organization explains individual performance is based on the time horizon of a person's work. Workers who need to make minute-by-minute or day-to-day decisions are at the first level of this theory. Then the longer time horizons of months, years, and decades fill the ranks of the higher levels of the theory. These levels are numbered from 1 to 7 as you go from frontline staff to executives and presidents. Jacques also suggested that workers follow predictable career paths over time. Where do you think you fall in the requisite organization work level hierarchy? The hierarchy says that this time scope is probably the largest single factor determining someone's wages. But there are other factors people commonly consider, like their skills and experience. A person has some control over these 3 green circles at the top. The 2 yellow circles of market forces and inflation also have a strong influence. And of course there is the big factor of luck shown in the white circle. The largest factor of all is not shown here, but it's the question whether you are still healthy enough to be working at all. So let's take these 7 factors and try to determine the salary of our hypothetical person. We take a 25-year-old with $50,000 current income and assume that they get $1,500 raises per year. Then, when I press the Simulate button, their salary is calculated over 800 possible different lifetimes. We can see the different colors in the chart represent different likelihoods of different salaries. Each year, the worker receives a $3,000 raise or no raise at all, which will average to $1,500 per year. By the time this worker is age 60, their salary could have quite a spread. We just do not know. Their last year of work is expected to be in their mid-60s. This also takes into account the chance of becoming disabled, significantly represented below the 10th percentile. This framework seems to be a reasonable foundation for the simulation. The next step will be to calculate how this person's wealth changes over their lifetime, with the final goal of the game to determine what their spending and savings pattern should be.